G'day, Duggar here. Things have been pretty hectic at my digs up in Townsville over the last few weeks, so I thought I'd take a couple of days off and head on down to the Darling Downs to catch up with some family and friends. I'm down here in the beautiful garden city of Toowoomba, one of the loveliest places in Queensland, and while I was down here I thought I'd take the chance to show you some of the wonderful things that this city has to offer. So come on then, let's go check out Toowoomba with Duggar. Toowoomba is quite rightly known as the Garden City of Queensland and is a home to some absolutely spectacular flowers at all different times of the year. It's Valentine's Day now and the roses are looking pretty special. One of the things that I really love about Toowoomba is the neatness and tidiness of most of the suburbs here. It's a really well presented and beautiful city where so many people take a lot of care of their homes and gardens. I'm here at my mum and dad's digs and they've got a very beautiful small area garden that's well worth having a quick look at. Mum and dad have always been very avid gardeners and they've done an absolutely special job here of making this very small area look really good. They've made a lovely new area out the front here with a lot of flowering natives and grasses which attract some amazing bird life into the yard. Most of these plants are less than a year old and have established themselves really well. Although it does look like this little melaleuca here is having a few troubles. Now I'm not an expert, but it looks to me like this little fella might be having some drainage problems. The soil here is quite heavy clay, and I think in this instance, with all the rain that they've had earlier in the year, it's just holding too much moisture. This particular species of melaleuca is a Western Australian native, so it's probably going to like some nice sandy and well-drained soil, and is not real happy with the clay that's holding the moisture in. But apart from that, I don't think you can fault anything else that's going on in this garden. The little lomandras are looking wonderful. The grevilleas are attracting so many birds to the yard. And the magnolias are about to bloom away. Let's jump out of the backyard and go have a look at what else Toowoomba has to offer. No tour of Toowoomba would be complete without a visit to one of its most beautiful places, the Japanese Gardens. If you've never been here, do yourself a favour. It's an amazing example of a Japanese garden existing outside of Japan, and something really unique to have here in Queensland. It's a really special place. Toowoomba is one of the few climates in Queensland where it's possible to replicate a Japanese garden. And here at Toowoomba, they've done a fantastic job of doing exactly that. Spent a lot of time in Japan and I've visited all of the main Japanese gardens. So coming to a place like this in Queensland is really quite unique and quite special. Rather than rattle on too much about the ins and outs of Japanese gardens, let's take a few moments to wander around and absorb the peace and tranquility of what they're really all about. Sound is a really important aspect of Japanese gardens. You might be able to hear the bamboo creaking as we walk through this area here. It's been 2 years since I've been to Japan. So being able to spend some time here today is almost as good as the real thing. It's a pleasure to be walking through here and reminds me a lot of being back in Japan. There's a pretty quick tour around the Japanese gardens. Let's go have a look at what else Toowoomba's got to offer. Another beautiful spot that I can highly recommend a visit to in Toowoomba is the picnic point lookout. Let's go have a squeeze. Its location at the top of the range here is one of the reasons the Japanese style plants grow really well here, but it's also one of the reasons that it's one of the coolest cities in Queensland, quite different to the tropics of Townsville. As you look out from Picnic Point, you look down across the Lockyer Valley, and along with Toowoomba and the Darling Downs, it's one of the main food production areas here in Queensland. Establishing Duggar's Digs in this area of the country is a really tempting thought. Imagine the type of veggies I could grow down here if I didn't have to worry about all the problems that I'm faced with up in the tropics. There's some beautiful little places on the outskirts of Toowoomba. We're just popping in here to the Highfields Village Green. A nice little place to stop for a coffee. Even ran into me mum here. With all the fresh produce available in this region, it's most likely that if you do go to a coffee shop or a cafe like this, that you're going to end up with something lovely, fresh and homemade, which is exactly the case in this instance. The Highfields Village Green, a place I can highly recommend you stop in for a bite to eat. My dad can certainly pick a nice spot for lunch. Well done, Yergi. So there you go, a quick look at some of the wonderful places that Toowoomba has to offer. Right, that's it for me today. Time for a cold beer. Duggar out.